everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of Trauma Talk. I'm thrilled today to be joined by Andrew Jenkins, who you might recognise from series 2 of The Traitors, where he courageously shared his story of being involved in a road traffic collision that changed his life. Today, Andrew's passion is to share his story and inspire others through his work in mental health advocacy, working with organisations to raise awareness, destigmatize mental health, and help individuals. Thank you so much for having a chat with me today, Andrew. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast.
No, thank you for the invitation. I'm really looking forward to it. It's great, the work you do. It's fantastic. So it's an honour to come on the podcast, actually. I'm really looking forward to it.
Thank you, brilliant. Could you start by introducing yourself a bit more and sharing your background and your story?
Yeah, of course. So my name's Andrew Jenkins. I was born 1978. I know I don't look it. I know a lot younger. No, but I was born basically a traditional Welsh family, I suppose, where my mother and father hardworking. My dad worked in a factory. My mother worked in National Westminster Bank. And then when my oldest brother Simon was born, my mother gave up work to be classed back then, was classed an old-fashioned traditional housewife. So she gave up her career to bring up her boys then. So I got 3 brothers, 2 older, 1 younger. My mother went back to work then when my youngest brother Carl was old enough to look after himself. So she went back to work in a local school. She went back as a dinner lady and also in the evenings back cleaning. So they got a great work ethic, really great, great loving family. Sport is a huge part of my life as well. So from 5 years of age, I had a rugby ball in my hands. So like most children in Wales, my dream and ambition and goal is to play rugby for Wales, run out in front of on the hallowed turf in front of 80,000 fans and play rugby for Wales. All my brothers played rugby as well. So as you can imagine, the competitiveness in my household and the testosterone was ridiculous growing up.
Hi.
I've done a lot of work, a lot of research the last couple of years, but it's like a toxic masculinity culture, I suppose I know it as now, where not just in my household, but I was in rugby clubs from a young age, in gyms, all this, I've done security work for years. So the worst culture for people are talking and showing feelings and emotions. Like I was growing up thinking that if I showed feelings and emotions, it'd make me weak. My parents never told me that. When I talk about it, I make it sound like they're bad people, but they're amazing people. Just the generation they're from. My dad's 80, my mother's 77. So their generation just come out of World War II. And the way they showed their love was putting a roof over our head and food on the table. So physical safety I had, physical security, but zero emotional security at all. I've never seen my family show any feelings and emotions, or even to this day, my dad's never said he's loved me. My mother's probably said it once. I know they do. They've never displayed it or showed it in that way. I've never seen my brothers show any feelings or emotions towards each other. And it's all that big, strong layers you put on, layers and layers and layers. A mask, I wore a suit of armour. I think, all my life, I suppose, for 20 years of my life, it's only the last couple of years that I've been totally vulnerable and be my true, authentic self.
Yeah, thank you. And I definitely hear what you're saying around, the kind of generational element of showing feelings and emotions. And it's quite different, I think, that generation to our generation, and what's starting to happen now, where people are starting to talk more about their feelings and the difficult experiences that they've had in life.
Yeah, it's getting better. I think there's still a lot of work needs doing to break the stigma. They're asking for help and it's showing it's a weakness and a support. There's a woman I read, Brené Brown. I started reading the last couple of months. Amazing books, and it's vulnerable. For some reason, in this country, we think vulnerability is a weakness, but it's not. It's actually quite brave and courageous to be vulnerable. And I've been totally vulnerable to millions of people, and the feelings are not great. And when I do my keynote talks, I say to people in the audience, hands up who's been vulnerable. And everybody puts their hand up. And I said, hands up who enjoys the feeling of vulnerability. And they all put their hands down. You feel naked, you feel afraid, you feel lonely, you feel out of control. You feel all these things and emotions. And it's scary. I can see why people keep their coat of armour on all their lives, I suppose. It's quite scary to be totally true and authentic to yourself. You've got to look at yourself in the mirror, and you've got to look at your deepest, darkest, I call them faults, embedded behaviours, I suppose. It's not our fault. I didn't know any different. It's an embedded behaviour in my unconscious mind that I was passed down the generations, and I didn't know any different. So trying to change my whole belief system has been difficult. It's a challenge, but I'm doing great things now. Getting them, still work in progress, but I'm on the right direction, going the right direction now.
Yeah, absolutely. And being vulnerable is a terrifying thing. Her talk on the power of vulnerability on YouTube is absolutely. Have you seen it?
Yeah, it's amazing. There's one in my talk. I say to people, there's lots of different scenarios I can read out, but there's 4 scenarios I read out, and they're real life scenarios. Like a man sitting down with his 42-year-old wife to write her last will and testament after she's been diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. Somebody knocking his best friend's door, telling him his child has been killed, the only child has been killed in a car crash. Being pregnant after having 6 miscarriages. set up your own business when you're age of 50 and work for something for 30 odd years. So basically, they're all real life scenarios. And the first emotions all them people said they felt was vulnerable. So I say to people in the audience, when do you think any of them are weak? And nobody puts their hand up. I say, no, they're not weak. Knocking your friend's door, telling him your son has been killed. That's brave and courageous, actually. I was going to swear that. That's quite brave and courageous. But like, so it's this vulnerability thing. It's not, this. I can see why people do it. From a young child, you get told to fit in with society and be socially accepted. You have to do this, do this. You go to school, you get conditioned some more. You get so many layers put on top of you. You get to be a circle of friends, and to be a cool kid in school, you start drinking, smoking. Some kids take drugs. You start messing around with the opposite sex to try and be cool in school, be accepted. You go to university, and you're told that's what makes you happy. You find a job then, the biggest salary possible, the biggest house possible, because you're told that's what happiness is. And then you wake up when you're 30, 40, 50, you look in the mirror, you think, who is this guy like? And who's this person looking back at you? And I think people call it a midlife crisis, but I think you've just realised you've gone back to being the true, authentic self you are. You've gone back to the person you were down, you got you down here, and you got 20 levels above, and you've just gone back to being your true self, really. And you wake up, you're in a relationship with someone you think, I don't love them, but I got kids with them, so I think I'm stuck with them. My parents like them. I got a big house, but I'm told all my friends by this age, by 40 years of age, you have to have this house, you have to do this by this age. It's almost so much levels of social acceptance that are put on top of you, so much pressure's put on you now this day and age. But I've been totally vulnerable now. What I'm doing now, I'm being my true authentic self, and I'm doing what I want to do, not to keep my parents happy, not to keep my friends happy, and keep me happy now. I'm putting myself first for a change.
And that's the most important thing, that you're happy. I mean, you should live your life for you.
Yeah.
But like you said, there's so much social conditioning that we all have, and so many things that you kind of get taught from a young age that you do. I think it's a lot of people get to where they are and think, how did I get here?
Yeah, I look at all my friends, for example. Every single one is all settled down in nice houses. And for years, I look at them thinking, I'm running out of time. I've got to be like them. I've got to fit in with my friends. But even my parents say to me, but I'm going to find a good woman and be happy. I think, why not ask me if I am happy? Do you know what I mean? They associate, my mother and father married 57 years. They probably should have been divorced like 20 times over, but they didn't, back then, they didn't do things like that. So they bicker and argue. They do love each other, but you know what I mean? That's the generation they come from. And if they associate a woman with my happiness, rather than me seeking happiness first and then finding someone, they say, when are you going to find my mother said to me the other day, you're going to find a good woman before I die? no pressure then. Do you know what I mean? I think that's what I've grown up listening to all my life. All my life I've listened to this sort of thing, and they put their belief system onto me. So their beliefs are my beliefs. I didn't agree with them, but that's what I grew up with. Do you know what I mean? My brother's exactly the same. So I'm trying to break that the last 3 or 4 years. And it's tough. I'm not necessarily trying to say my parents are wrong. They're not wrong. But I'm trying to say, trying to challenge my mother and father's upbringing. It's been quite hard. Do you think, according when you're a kid, you look up to them parents as if they are amazing, hopefully, and they're always right and they're brilliant and everything they say is true and right and everything. But trying to challenge that now is hard.
It's really, really tough, and it, especially as an adult as well, because you've had, however many tens of years that you've had those beliefs for, and so trying to undo them and challenge them and actually figure out, what do I believe now? Because you need to replace those beliefs with something in most cases. So if you don't agree with the original belief, what do you replace it with?
Grew up all my life thinking people on benefits are all scroungers, for example, a typical example, right? But obviously all my life I thought I used to say, my bloody taxes going towards your bill, your benefits and all that sort of thing. But I've obviously now, I know not everybody's like that. Do you know what I mean? There are people out there, like, it seems everything in life. There are people out there, people out there in work who are lazy and things, but like people out there on benefits, there are genuinely people out there who need their benefits to survive, put food on the table, who are genuinely ill. Do you know what I mean? So, but growing up, I thought everybody was on a scrounger. I thought every person coming into this country was, immigration, for example, was all whatever. But so I know I'm a much more open-minded person. I'm in a growth mindset now, whereas for years in the valleys, my glass ceiling was so low. I was such a small, like going to London when I was younger, I would have been like, God, London, wow, it blows my mind. I was like, if I speak to my friends, you go to London, as if it's like the other side of the earth. But now I go to London and it's fine. I stuck in my comfort zone for 40 years of my life. It's only been the last couple of years I'm actually out of my comfort zone when I'm growing.
Yeah, and there's a reason for all of these cliche sayings, right? Like growth is what happens outside of your comfort zone, but it's there because it's true.
Yeah.
So can you share a bit more about your the accident?
Yeah.
that you experienced and the journey that you've been on since in terms of the recovery?
Yeah, well, on the 28th of August 1999, my life was changed forever. I was involved in a road traffic accident. It was five of us in the car. I flipped the car. I was driving. I went out to the side window, the driver's window, and my head was dragged along the floor. My arm was dragged along the floor for a couple of 100 yards. When the car stopped sliding, it landed on top of me. It was leaning on top of me. When the emergency services turned up with the car accident at the scene, they told them in the car that I was dead. So they thought I was dead on the side of the road. I didn't die, I'm not a ghost, so I am alive. And so basically they did a blood transfusion on me on the side of the road. They took me to a hospital in Newport in Wales called the Royal Gwent. But there was nothing they could do for me there. So I had a police escort then to go to another hospital in Morriston, in Swansea, which is where neurology was and plastic surgery. But while all this was going on, my mother and father were getting the dreaded knock on the door from the policeman to say, your son's been involved in a road traffic accident, you've got to come with us now. My mother and father thought it was a little bump in the car, to be honest, and they said, we'll get changed in their night pajamas, I suppose, getting ready for bed, and they said, you haven't got time to get changed, you have to come with us now. So looking back, over the last couple of years, I really realised what they must have gone through. I can't imagine having that knock on the door from I got a son. I never want that knock on the door of a policeman to my son. So I can't imagine the trauma and the stress and all the emotions they went through. Being an old school generation family, they don't deal with things like that very well. They bottle things up. So, but they put in the back of a police car, then blue lighted down the M4 motorway from where they lived to the hospital. But as soon as they got to the hospital, I was on a trolley coming back out of the hospital to go to the ambulance to be taken to the other hospital. My parents weren't allowed to see me either because I was in such a bad way. I'm not going into detail now, but as you can imagine, my head being dragged along the floor is not a great thing. So as you can imagine, the injuries I sustained were quite horrific. So they weren't allowed to see me. My dad said, can I go in the back of the ambulance with my son? And he was told no. They said, you've got a doctor in the back of the ambulance, a nurse, and all the machinery keeping your son alive. And when they took my parents into the side room in the hospital to talk to them, they said, they don't think you're going to make the trip from Newport to Swansea, which is about 40 minutes. So they said, I wouldn't make that trip. So I got to the hospital in Morriston. They operated on me that night. They did a lot. I smashed my skull and had all bone embedded in my brain. So the first operation I had was to remove all the bone from my brain. Then I basically had nothing on top of my head at all. So I'd take all the skin off the back of my head and put it on the top of my head. Skin graft all across the back of my head. So it was quite bad. And then I was in a coma for 4 weeks. And my family were called in on, I think it was 3 occasions, to say I wouldn't make it through the night. And then when I did start recovering, they told my family in a room, they said from the CT or the CAT scans, he's got a lot of shadow, which probably means brain damage. So be prepared for the worst. If your son wakes up, he's not going to recognise anyone, walk, talk, use his arms and legs ever again. So I woke out of my coma. I remember who people were, but then I remember a couple of days later then, the doctors come around and said, you're never going to walk again. And I said to the doctor, I guarantee I'll walk at this hospital. And he said, he won't. And I said, I will. And I argued with this guy, the surgeon, that I'd walk out of the hospital again. And I learned to walk. It took me 2 weeks to learn to walk again. So when I got out of bed for the first time, it was crazy. I do a lot of training, so I understand. I've studied nutrition and diet and training, so I know mind, muscle memory and everything. So when I got out of bed for the first time, she had to sit me back down straight away because I got lightheaded because I'd been on my back for 2 months. When she eventually got me up, I literally stood there and I could not remember how to I couldn't find my legs. I could not remember how to walk. So she had to pick my feet up and put one in front of the other. I remember how to walk again then. And I drag myself out of bed every night and try and do a couple of steps on my own, fall on my face, pull myself on the bars on the side of the bed, do a couple more steps, and I learned to walk again. So, say 2 weeks it took me. But obviously my physical injuries were bad, as you can imagine, but my biggest challenge lay ahead was my mental health. I didn't know much anything about it back then. I'm from a generation, tough guy, rugby boy, I didn't know mental health. I thought it was no nonsense, to be honest. It was a mask for 25 years of my life, really, where I get up, go to a corporate banking job, Lloyd's Bank for 17 years, shirt and tie on. But behind closed doors, I was breaking. I hated my life. I called myself a freak every day in the mirror. I sabotaged everything good happening to me. Every relationship I ruined. I just couldn't accept what happened to me. At the time, they offered me counselling after my accident, and I thought I would see somebody in a white coat who'd judge me, psychoanalyze me, get inside my head. And I thought, I don't want to see that. I'm not talking to that. I couldn't talk to my family because A, we don't talk about things like that, feelings and emotions. Sport, yeah, but not feelings and emotions. But also, you're putting them through enough stress as it is. You don't want to be a burden on them, put more on them. So I didn't talk to them about it either. So I didn't talk to anybody about it. But I know academic people saved my life. I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for academics. But I say all I wanted was somebody to listen to me, somebody who'd been through an experience like I had, a real life story, who just sit in the trenches with me and just listen to me. I didn't want answers. I didn't want anybody to tell me their opinion. Just sit there and be with me and just talk to me, I suppose, and listen. So about 15 years after my accident, I went for counselling, and the woman I saw was amazing. And she wasn't what I was expecting at all. She wasn't like dressed in a white coat or anything. I went to see her in her house, and she had tattoos, which blew my mind. Not that tattoos mean different, but she had tattoos. She was lovely. And after the first session, she said, "No, what's wrong with you?" And I said, "What, PTSD?" And she goes, "No, you're grieving." And I thought, back then, I didn't know much about grief. I thought grieving was when you physically die. And she goes, "No, all I've heard of you today is, I used to play rugby, I used to do this, you're grieving your whole life." She's grieving a loss of identity, basically. So all my life growing up, I thought, the only way my dad proud, it fit in my family, playing rugby. All I knew was rugby. The only time I spent with my dad was talking about rugby. So when I couldn't play rugby anymore, I didn't think my dad loved me anymore. I would say he's proud of me ever. I thought my brothers were better than me as well. They were still playing rugby at a good standard. So we'd go to my mother's every Sunday for a family dinner. My brothers would end up in one room, my dad, watching Scrum 5 on the telly rugby. And all the brothers were saying, "I played rugby yesterday, I scored a try, I did this, I won," and that. My dad's sitting there listening to them. I'm sat there thinking, what have I got to talk about? I got nothing to talk. I'm not like them anymore. I got nothing to talk about. So I thought he loved them more than me. And this went on for years. I just went quiet there. I'm going my shell in my mother's house because I didn't think I was part of the family anymore. I cut myself with my friends at the rugby club as well. I didn't think I was one of them. They were my tribe anymore. Or nobody ever said anything bad to me. These are all things I made up in my own head, really. Overthought and made up in my own head. So I withdrew from everything, really. And I struggled with it for years and years. There's days I lie in bed crying. I didn't want to go to bed. Get out of bed was such a hard, just get out of bed every day. It was a nightmare. I lie in bed crying, wish I was dead. I was a hindrance to my family, better off if I wasn't here anymore. I never tried to do anything. I never tried to take my own life or make a plan. But I did think about it. If it was much easier, the pain would go away. I'd look like a freak. I didn't think I'd ever get a girlfriend. And I told myself horrible things every day for over 24 years, probably. Every single day, call myself names every single day. Things I wouldn't tell my worst enemy, my brothers, my son. So why would I tell myself every day? It was awful. I had my self-worth, my self-esteem were like rock bottom, through the floor, to be honest with you. So I hated myself. So, that was the biggest challenge I had, was my mental health for 24 years, I suppose.
It's huge. It's huge. And it's such a hugely life-altering event to go through. And I've heard it from other people as well that, after a big physical challenge, that actually they don't necessarily realise the challenge that's going to come kind of mentally and emotionally afterwards. And it is so difficult to talk to people around you as well. And like you said, especially if people aren't used to talking about their feelings, or it's kind of not what you do as a family, and how you try and juggle that, and how you or kind of cope with it and move forward. And so thank you for sharing all of that. I'm sure
they don't prepare you in hospital, do they? They don't prepare you in hospital. They look after you, make sure you're physically well enough to go home. They send you home then. I say, like, is that fair? They did offer me counselling, but they didn't really tell me the implications of not having counselling. They didn't know, but yeah, they didn't offer me help and support. They released me back out to my normal life. I struggled for years and years, and I suppose there's millions of people out there in the same, people in the forces, policemen, firemen, nurse. I spoke to a few people over the last couple of months or last year, I suppose, because I'm doing what I'm doing. Like a fireman, for example, I said he witnessed 3 traumatic incidents in a 12-month period. I said, "What help and support do you get for that?" Nothing, he said. "I get a generic email sent off my station commander saying, same bump, and at the end, if you feel you need help or something, ring this number." I said, "You ring the number." "No, I don't ring the number. I'm a fireman, it's my job. I don't want my boss to know I'm struggling." He says, "That's mad. You've got trauma inside you. Unless you deal with your trauma, it'll come back and bite you on the backside. It'll be 6 weeks, 6 days, 6 years, but it will come back. It'll be in you somewhere." And he said, "Well, the worst thing is, it'll be something that happens, which is not, it's something so small, like somebody might cut you up on the road, or your partner might look you the wrong way, or say something wrong to you. You'll snap, and then unfortunately, you might try and take your own life, or succeed, or you might do something totally out of character, beat somebody up, or do something. So you haven't dealt with this trauma." Another woman I saw as well, a midwife, she delivered a stillborn baby. An hour or two later, I got delivered another baby. I see it, but what about that one? What about that one? It's my job. I see, I know, but again, it's a trauma. I said the same thing with her. It's a trauma inside you. So you're not going to go home and talk to your husband about, well, you might do, but he's not going to understand. You're going to talk to your husband about a stillborn baby or 2. I said, "Does that happen quite a lot?" "Yeah, quite a few she delivers." And I said, "Just get support." No, nothing at all. I'm like a half hour a month if we're allowed, or we can't afford it. I'm got the time in as a midwife, and we haven't got the finance, we haven't got the money in the NHS, I suppose. So all these people out there, like soldiers, policemen, they're getting no help. All these riots that are going on at the moment. Like, what support are they getting? There's trauma the police are getting. And I'm going to the House of Commons in a couple of weeks' time now to talk about trauma. So it's a huge subject. People are taking their own life. Suicide rates are increasing. I think employers got a duty of care to look after their staff better, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had similar conversations to you with a police officer who, goes from domestic abuse incident to a stabbing to a deceased person to dealing with someone who's dealing drugs in the hallway,
Yeah.
and literally like no time between any of them. And again, if they're lucky, they might have a debrief, or they might get 6 sessions of counselling through occupational health, but they're not offered anything else.
That's the choice as well, isn't it? They get offered it. But if again, because of this persona, people get, especially men, there's persona, strong policeman, security, fireman, soldier. The chances of them ever admitting to somebody, their boss in work or their station commander, or we can offer you counselling, they're going to say no. I think it should be mandatory. They have to see these people. And the other thing I think as well, there's a huge, I say it's not a gap in the market, it sounds stupid, but people with real life stories, like myself, I'm not just saying it's just me, I know anybody, but like real life stories, like there's people, I've talked to lots of people over the last couple of months who said, I didn't want to open up to a counsellor or a psychologist or somebody, but I can talk to you. And I say, look, I'm not a qualified psychologist or counsellor or nothing. Because I know I don't care. I just want to talk to you. You understand what I'm going through. So I think these people who've been through a traumatic incident a lot of the time, they should maybe get people who've had lived experience to talk to them and get them to open up and start talking, then passing the psychologist, the counsellors, the specialists, get them to open up and talk and to make these people see it doesn't make you a bad person for talk. It doesn't make you weak to talk. I've done it. I'm a big, strong guy. It doesn't make me weak. So it makes you a better person, really. I said, so maybe there's a huge, gap in the market, like a sales thing, a huge thing where they should use people with relived experiences more and get people to start talking to these people. And then, I think that could be a huge win-win, I think. And I hope I'm going to say that when I go to the House of Commons in the next couple of weeks, you mean?
Yeah.
House of Trauma.
Yeah.
It is a House of Trauma, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I completely agree with you in terms of lived experience, and talking to other people who have lived experience of something traumatic can make such a huge difference to somebody's journey. I know that was true for my own journey, and I've seen it happen in lots of other cases. And a lot of people doing what I do now with Remind and building the app and sharing my personal story as well. I get a lot of people open up to me when I share about what I do for work, open up and share their story with me. And like you said, they might not have wanted to talk to a counsellor or a professional or kind of know how to approach it, but they actually do want to talk to somebody. But it goes back to what you were saying earlier about the vulnerability. It's absolutely terrifying to take that first step and open up. Yeah. And because it feels so unbearable and so almost in some ways like dangerous, like something really bad is going to happen if you open up. And actually it is a huge step, but it's such a powerful step, and probably the first step that you need to and can take on the way back to recovery and to start healing, because it will connect you to other people potentially who have had similar experiences or have, can help you find the ways in which you can start to heal and recover.
Yeah, I think it's important to have a good support network around you. That could be a partner, your family. I'm going to be a family. It could be somebody close to your friends. Like I've got, on one hand, I got thousands of friends. I've done lots of things in my life work-wise and that. So I've got rugby and I got lots and lots of friends. But I suppose on one hand, I probably got people I can open up to with non-judgment either. That's the thing where when you're vulnerable, I've been vulnerable with somebody once before and they use it as a weapon against me. So I close back up again then. So being vulnerable is scary. You've got to trust someone enough to not draw any judgment off them, just listen to you. And you've got to find a support network around you. And it could be anybody, a walking group, it could be anything. Anybody's a support network, I suppose. It could be anybody you know. It could be a stranger sometimes, do you know what I mean? But I think it's important to open up and talk to someone and show, don't get judged by anything. Do you know what I mean? And judgment is massive in that. So people with lived experience who've been through it, I'm not going to say I understand what anybody's going through. A trauma is a trauma for somebody. A broken nail could be a trauma for somebody. You can't judge somebody else's trauma. Somebody says, this is my traumatic incident. So I can't laugh and say, I had a bigger, mine was better than that. A trauma is a trauma at the end of the day. And the emotions on the back of a trauma are the same, regardless of how big the trauma is. And you might even witness a trauma. It might even happen to you. You could witness something, a bad accident or something happened to you, but the results off the back of it are the same, I think, emotional-wise. So, yeah, you've got to have a really good support network around you and have somebody around you really trust to open up to.
Yeah, absolutely. And a support network makes a huge difference. And like you said, trauma is a hugely personal thing in terms of if it affects you, that's not for anyone else to decide if it's traumatic or not. But again, going back to the point around stigma, people are really quick to judge and decide whether or not something is bad enough, and kind of put that on you, which again, I think stops people from opening up. Um, did
Embarrassed. Some
you?
people are embarrassed though, but I think it's not worthy. They feel embarrassed and think, "Oh, this is only a little trauma." I feel embarrassed if I say this, but like you said, it's not. You can't judge anybody else's trauma. A trauma is a trauma at the end of the day. And you got to be open and listen. I listen to anybody. People say to me, "Oh, I've been involved in a big car accident." I said, "Look, I don't care. Take the car accident out of the equation." I said, "I hope nobody has a car accident been through what I've been through." I said, "But the feelings and emotions, I'm not going to judge you and think, oh, that's not worth my time. I'm going to listen to you and talk to you exactly the same." I mean, like I say, a trauma is a trauma. You can't judge anybody else's trauma.
No, exactly, and I actually think that it is the feelings and emotions that happen as a result of the trauma that people who have experienced something traumatic connect on,
Yeah.
because it is something that people who have been through a traumatic experience and are experiencing trauma understand almost innately in each other. And that I think is really powerful and really helpful, that actually you speak to somebody who you're like, someone finally understands what it is that I'm going through. And that can be really, really kind of powerful on your journey.
And they're not going to
So
treat
you
me any different or judge me. They're not going to treat me any different or judge me either. Do you mean that's important?
Oh, 100%, 100%. You mentioned you had counselling last year. Was that the first time that you
I
sought
know.
counselling
My
out?
counselor was 50. My counselor was about 10 years ago, I think it was. It was
Okay, right, right.
about 15 years after my accident.
Okay,
So 20, yeah, about 10 years ago, my counsellor was. But through Lloyd's Bank, we used to use a company called Validium, where you get free counselling sessions. So I only had 5 sessions, I think. So just as she was scratching the surface, I finished then. So, and again, I went back into my shell then. I bottled back up. So, like I say, I'm not perfect. That didn't cure me, for example. I went back to my self sabotaging. And I'm not perfect now. I'm far from perfect now. I'm working. I need to work on myself. And on the weekend, I went away and it highlighted quite a few issues myself I still need to work on. So I learned a lot on the weekend about myself personally. There's things I need to work on for myself. And yeah, so I'm work in progress every day. And I think people say to me, what's the end date? And when's, there's no end date on mental health. You can't just say, oh, by June 26, 2026, I'm done. I'm finished. I say to people, mental health, you should work on your mental health every single day. The only problem in this country, we're very reactive. So the only time we ever look at it is when we're in crisis situation or somebody's trying to take their own life or has done something, then we look at it, intervene. But no, why do we work on our physical health all the time? But so why you pay a PT, for example, £60, £100 a session to look after your physical health? So why not pay a therapist money to look after your mental health? Because I know I'm a strong guy physically. I can lift lots of weight. But my mind will always outmuscle my mental and physical every single time. It'll beat me every single time. I know I don't even try and fight my mind. I do, but it wins every single time, hands down. So unless you start working on your mental health and your mind, you're never going to be happy or content or complete. You need to work it on. In America, they have therapists all the time. It's normal to have a therapy in America. In this country, it's a British thing again. When you say about therapists or mental health, people assume you're sat in a corner, rocking back and forth, crying. That's not the case, I said to people. When I released a video on Facebook about 18 months ago now about the last 25 years of my life, the way I've been feeling. And I had hundreds of messages of people. I had 26,000 views, but I had hundreds of messages of people saying, I can't believe you're going through that. I didn't know you were going through that. You was the life and soul of the party, laughing, joking. I said, yeah, what do you expect? I'm not going to walk around crying. I'm not walking around with like a big lightning thunderbolt following me around. I said, it doesn't work. That's cartoons. It doesn't work like that. It's the people who've got the biggest smiles on their faces, who've got the nicest houses, the fanciest cars. I said, don't judge anybody behind closed doors. You don't know what's going on in people's lives at the end of the day. I said, just be nice to people. Just talk to people. And I talk for Britain, as you can probably tell from this podcast. But I say to people, when you're in the petrol station, just say hello to the guy behind you or the woman in the supermarket. Just say, good morning, hello. For all you know, that's the first time that person could have come out of that house in 3 months, 3 weeks. They could have lost somebody, been made redundant, whatever. And that good morning to you might think is something simple. You think, it's only good morning. But to them, that could be the difference in going home and taking their own life and actually being seen and heard by someone. It doesn't cost anything to be polite and nice to people. Don't judge
no,
anybody.
exactly, and it does make it can make a really big difference in your day. Like I know that I've had days where not feeling great and somebody says hello to me, or you go into a shop and the person behind the counter makes a bit of small talk, and it does make a massive difference. And like you said, it is quite an easy thing to do, just to kind of say hello and make conversation and have a chat. And I think that we, as a society, we just do that a lot less these days. And we're all kind of wrapped up, so busy with what we're doing and wrapped up in what we're doing, that we don't make as much time for each other, and we don't have as many open conversations as we could have. But having those conversations and opening up and sharing, going back to what you were saying around sharing your story and sharing your experiences and talking to other people, is a really good way of looking after your mental health, and just kind of having somebody that you can have those conversations with. And I think we are sort of all trying to reach for this nirvana in some ways of, one day I'm going to get to this place and I'm going to be fixed and I'm going to be happy forever. And social media sells exactly like social media sells us this dream, but it's not actually, that's not how life works.
And I got a simple outlook on life. My partner says, "Oh, you've got such a simple outlook on life." I said, "Yeah, like we're all human beings, right? I think this is me. This is my simple brain, right? I think I haven't evolved. I didn't evolve from a chimpanzee. I don't know, but I think my life is simple, right? You got all these people arguing and fighting, all these different groups. Unless you're part of a group, you're not cool or trendy. I've got loads of offers to come and be. Will you represent it? So look, I'm not being part of any group. I'm just a human being. I don't care if I'm white, heterosexual, male. I don't care. And like, you got the blacks and the whites, the head. Just put them, why don't you all just talk to each other? Put everybody in a room and start talking to each other. This is amazing invention. It was millions of years ago it was created. I think it's called talking. But we stopped doing that. We just stopped talking. It's all very good doing this and texting each other. But you can't really build a relationship by a text message. And I went to a big, big conference a few months back. And there was a guy there. It was a big tech conference it was. And there's a guy there, his tech, his business he's setting up. You've got these hot desks, these rooms you have hot desks, and people go there, different businesses, they rent a desk and everything. I think it's similar was, you got this web chat room you can go in, and you go onto this hot desk room, and you can talk to people on your app, find out what they do for a living, and find out a bit about them before you decide whether you go and work there or not. I was thinking, why don't you go and talk to them? Why don't you go to the room and talk to these people and find out if you'd like them or not? Find out if I was sat there, I talk to these people. You talk, what are you doing for a living? How nice day today? Weather's good today. And just simple day-to-day interpersonal skills. What you got? Just talk to each other. Oh, we don't do things like that these days. Right, mad, crazy. But we don't talk to each other. I used to be a coach a lot of people in Lloyd's Bank as well. And one of the busiest branches I was in was Cardiff, Queen Street, a massive branch. I'd stand behind the cashiers on a Saturday morning. And most of the cashiers on a Saturday morning in the branch was Saturday work, just Saturday only staff in university, do it like 1 day a week part-time. And a customer would come up to the desk, the counter, and pay their bill. They got 10 grand on a credit card, or got 100,000 in their savings or whatever. And the cashier would sit there, I'd stand behind them, they type away on the desk, pay their bills, and the customer would go. So why do you talk to him? I don't know what to say to him. I said, well, just talk. Oh, it's easy for you. I said, why is it easy for me? I don't know who they are. I don't know them. Just talk about the weather. Why they're in Cardiff today? They're in shopping Cardiff today. They're in town for a reason. I like your top you got, a nice haircut. Talk about anything. Just start a conversation, and the conversation will lead you down a different path then. I said, just open up the conversation. To me, you're being rude. I think it's rude. But I said, kids, I said, you could text them across the desk. You could probably send them a text message across the counter, but talking to them. And these kids, are just studying philosophy and psychology and physics, really bright children. But they're interpersonal, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. You just can't talk to each other. And I think that would solve so many issues in the world, wars going on, and so many issues, these groups, and the fighting, and the racism. It just blows my mind. Just talk to each other. It was so simple. Just talk to each other. And half that would be resolved, I think, if you just start talking more.
Yeah, talking and empathy would go a long way to solving a lot of things, definitely. So can you tell me a bit more of what you do now? Talking is obviously a huge part of that in terms of the work that you're doing and sharing your story. Can you share a bit more about that?
I struggle. I'm not going to sit there and easy. It's not easy because I only spoke to mother and father about the accident the first time last year, and it happened 24 years ago. I bottled it up, didn't talk to them. I put this mask on this front. I'm a strong man. I shouldn't have feelings and emotions. And so I met the man last year who saved my life. And he said, "You're a miracle." He told me I was a miracle patient. He said, "You should be dead you should have died on so many occasions." He said, "Look how big and strong you are." He said, "It's incredible. You've got to share your story really and talk to other people." I'd let that trauma define me all my life. Looking back on my life where I'd lost my rugby career, whatever, I'd lost all that. I used to be resentful, angry. I was trapped in like the grief cycle. I was grieving for years. So meeting him was really the catalyst I needed really to start thinking, yeah, there's no Andrew Jenkins part 2 or Andrew Jenkins a sequel. This is my life now. Like I spend the next 30, 40 years resentful, angry, chip on my shoulder, looking back at life. Or I started looking at what I got in my life. Because I look at my life, I'd have everything. I'd still be empty, resentful, angry all the time. I'd get frustrated with myself thinking, oh, when will I ever be happy? Do you know what I mean? But I was missing my purpose, really. So meeting him gave me the purpose I needed now. So it's called post-traumatic growth. So I'm not looking forward in life now rather than looking back all the time. It's like when the Paralympians, for example, lose a leg in Afghanistan. They're now in the Paralympics winning gold medals, getting awarded MBEs. Whereas if it hadn't happened to them, they might not have been good enough to be in the able-bodied Olympics. But now they're doing great things. It's like me. I now, don't get me wrong, I wish it hadn't happened to me. It was awful when it happened. But now I'm changing lives and helping inspire thousands of people. And if it hadn't happened to me, I don't know what I'd be doing, to be honest. I might rugby for Wales. It might never happen. So I could spend the rest of my life wondering what if, or I just get on with it. If it hadn't happened to me, I wouldn't be doing this. I wouldn't be talking to you. I wouldn't be helping people. I wouldn't be helping people. So, and as somebody said to me a few months back on a panel, are you happy? Would you prefer your life before the accident or after your accident? And up until about a year ago, I probably would have said before. But now I've accepted what happened to me. I've accepted the way I look, my scars and everything. I like my life now. I wouldn't change my life anymore. I've accepted it. So it took me a long, long time to get there. And if I'd seen somebody years ago to help me, maybe I could have got, sooner. I could have been here sooner, but I'm not. That's the way it was, I suppose. And but I like my life the way it is now. But I only sat my mother and father down last year for the first time I spoke about the accident. I sat my son down on a Saturday morning, my brother on a Saturday afternoon, my other brother on a Sunday, my other on a Monday. So we had a huge therapy weekend. And I told my son, we had a 4.5 hour chat in a coffee shop in Cardiff. We talked about everything completely. I'm not one of these naive parents who think my son is perfect. He goes to raves, for example. So I know what happens in raves. I know what gets offered in raves. He goes to the gym, for example. So I know what goes around in some gyms he goes to. But I'm hoping he can come and talk to me. If he's ever got any issues or problems, we're like brothers more than son and father. But he comes and talks about everything at all. So he's really got such an open conversation. And at the end of that conversation I had in Cardiff last year with him, I told him I loved him for the first time in his life. And he was 22. It took me 22 years to tell him I said I loved him. And how mad I hugged him as well. And I said to him, I'm proud of you no matter what you do in life. I don't care how big your house is, what car you drive. As long as you're a nice person, you're happy. That's all I care about. I don't care if you play rugby. And he used to play rugby. I'd watch him thinking, he won't enjoy it. Is he playing rugby to make me happy like I did? Or is he playing rugby because he wants to rugby? As soon as I said that to him, a couple of months later, he stopped playing rugby for 18 months. So looking back, was he actually doing it to keep me happy because he thought I wanted to play rugby? So I'm hoping I took that generational trauma. I broke with the generational cycle in my family, really, where I've told him I love him. We tell each other all the time now. And so when he has his children now, he'll tell them all the time. And it's okay to show your emotions and feelings. Yeah, so it's hard. So I only spoke to my family about it last year for the first time. So it was tough.
Yeah. It sounds like such a powerful shift, though, in terms of your journey that you've been on as well. It sounds like it's been hugely healing for you in order to start talking about your feelings and having that conversation with your son as well, and completely changing your relationship with him by the sound of it in terms of being able to openly express your feelings and emotions with each other and telling him that you love him and all of those things.
Looking back, I did exactly the same to my son as I had growing up, I suppose. My son would play rugby, come off the field, he'd have an amazing game. I'd pick up the one thing he didn't do, the one thing he did wrong. In my head, I think I was doing it to push him to be better all the time. All I'm really telling him is he's never good enough. So Benny's come off our field, all excited, happy to see me, after playing 80 minutes of rugby, being brilliant on the field. The first thing I say to him, you missed that tackle, you missed that kick. So all he's probably thinking is, I'm never good enough. It's just that scarcity thing where you're never good enough. Do you know what I mean? So he's thinking to himself, I'm never good enough. No matter what I do, I'm never good enough for my dad. So what it's doing really is having the opposite effect of what I thought it was having on him. But that happens all the time in sport, I think, basically. You're pushing your children to be better, be better, be better. I say to children now, all you can do is be the best you can and try your best. And winning's brilliant, don't get me wrong, but losing is part of life, unfortunately. As long as you can look at yourself in the mirror, in anything in life, not just sport, in your exams, in your driving tests, and say to yourself, I did my best. That's all you can ask for. You can't do any more than your best at the end of the day. I do a lot of talks in universities and schools about losing and failure. It's just part of life. I was so scared of failing growing up or losing. I was scared to try anything. But I said, I've learned more from my failings and losing in life than I have from my wins all the time. But I said, you've got to teach children losing is part, break this, again, there's a stigma around failing and losing. But it's not a bad thing. It's like when you pass your driving test third time, people laugh at you. Pass first time, you're amazing. You don't attach your self-worth and value to the material things in life and your achievements. That's what we do in this country. And it starts in school. You're going to you're the best thing in the world. Teachers love you. It's all, you associate your self-worth and things, all to material things, how big your house is, or salary you drive, what car you got. It's mad. Your self-worth is your self-worth. I've only known that the last couple of years, really.
And again, it's such a huge and powerful shift. And it also, I think, relates to what you were saying about purpose.
Yeah.
If you feel like your purpose is to achieve at school or in exams or a career or, playing sports or whatever it might be, and then for whatever reason that can't happen, or you do experience a life-changing event and it feels like it all comes crashing down.
Can't cope with it, can't deal with it then. You lose your identity, you can't cope. I was a little boy last year for a football tournament, and he said, I said, you win the tournament. Oh, everybody won. Right, I'm all for getting children involved in sport. I coach kids all my life. I love working with children. But I said, obviously everybody wins. We all have medals. I said, right, so if you scored 3 goals and they scored no goals, you don't win. How is that physically possible? It's not. It's the whole point of a score in life. I said, so you're not doing him any favours, I said. When he gets older, when he's 20, 30, 40, he loses his girlfriend, his job, or loses something, what's he going to do? Give up and cry? People say to me, how are you so strong mentally and physically? I said, mentally, because I've lost things in life. What I do is what you do off the back of that loss. Because I think when you don't achieve something in life, there's a reason behind it. You don't achieve the exam you want, you didn't study hard enough. You don't achieve the body you want, you didn't train hard enough or eat properly. Your partner dumps you, you didn't treat them properly. So I think a lot of the time, and there's outside factors as well, there's sometimes in life, there's reasons behind it. So all you got to do, I sit back, I think, why didn't I achieve what I wanted to achieve? And I put things in place to achieve it the next time, or the time after, or the time after. I keep going till I get it. And that's how you build strength and resilience, determination, and discipline, by doing the things even though you don't want to do them. Keep on doing them all the time, and you get better. By giving everything on a plate to someone, it's not helping them at all. You can't go through the whole life winning everything or achieving everything you ever wanted. You can't.
No, it doesn't work like that. And I think it is also really important to process all the feelings that go along with losing, because when things don't go your way, or something happens, how do you deal with it? Actually feeling all of the feelings that go with it and learning how to process them and work through them is also part of what builds resilience and what helps to make you stronger, so that you can get up the next time and try again and hopefully achieve your goal and what kind of what you set out to do. No matter what that goal is, whether it personal, professional, emotional, but feeling all of the feelings and actually allowing yourself to grieve whatever it was that might have happened or not happened. Because sometimes we grieve the things that don't happen as well as the things that do. But that's a huge part of the process of building strength and resilience and moving forward.
Yeah, it is huge.
Yeah. So tell me a bit more about your walking challenge that you're embarking on.
Yeah, so basically I was told 25 years ago I never walk ever again. And on the 29th of September, I'm walking 1,200 kilometres. I'm starting the Traitors Castle in Scotland, and I'm finishing in Cardiff Castle in Wales, my homeland. So I'm also going to a castle in Lancaster and also a castle in Northern Ireland. So I'm visiting the 4 home countries. I'm visiting 4 castles, but I'm also stopping every couple of days to do a talk on mental health and well-being as well, to people in schools, universities, companies, sports clubs and things like that as well. So I want to try and do 30 talks in 30 days if I can. So it's a big challenge for me. Walking 1,200 kilometres. It's going to take about 35 days, I think. And I want to show people who've been told they can't do something, they're not good enough, they've lost their self-belief, they suffered a traumatic incident, they've had a brain injury, mental health, all these. I tick so many boxes. I want to show these people, I'm doing it for them. People out there have lost their belief, who don't love themselves anymore. You can do great things in life. Just keep believing in yourself. I lost my self-belief for 20 years, really, and I get down days now. I'm not one of these people in the mental health well-being space who's all unicorns, rainbows, sitting on my yacht in Dubai, all perfect suntan, 6-pack body. My life is brilliant. I'm coaching thousands of people. Don't compare yourselves to these people, I say. You look at it, don't compare yourselves. So they got their stuff going on exactly the same as everybody else. I got my stuff going on. I just don't post about it on my social media. And I also have coping mechanisms and strategies I can implement to stop me spiraling. Whereas years ago, I'd spiral. I wouldn't get out of it for days, weeks, months, weeks sometimes. But now I don't, you know. And you look at these people who are having a down day. You look at all these people in the mental health and well-being space, thinking, oh, their life is perfect. I want their life. It's amazing. They got their mansion, their swimming pool. It's bullshit. Don't believe it all. Don't believe it all. I tell these children in school I speak to, don't believe. And as parents, coaches, teachers, you've got to teach. Find, first of all, know what your children are looking at on social media. First of all, but then sit them down and say, this isn't real. That's not real life as well. Children are seeing their mother and father have a disagreement or an argument, and they think the whole world's over. That's life, I said. That's normal in life, a disagreement. Obviously not beating each other up or a crazy argument, but there's a disagreement about something. Kids are getting panicked, but they're not seeing that on their social media. In real life, they see an argument. They think there's something wrong with their mother and father. That's life, though. You don't see that. I say to kids, it's not. Don't compare yourselves to someone's best moment on their highlight reel on their social media.
Absolutely, and it's Instagram and all of the different forms of social media are such a highlight reel, and it looks as though people do have everything. And actually, what you were saying about having the tools to stop yourself from spiraling, I think that message also can go really missing in terms of how we manage our mental health and well-being. And it's not that, like you said, you don't have a great day every day. I don't have a great day every day either.
I don't know.
But it's about having the tools when you're not having a great day, in order to know how to help yourself and how you might be able to make things a little bit easier or a little bit better for you. And that is kind of what we all need to be working towards in terms of being able to look after our mental health, rather than reaching one day we're going to be fixed and there's the end of the road, because it is likely always going to be a work in progress.
Yeah.
Can you share some things?
Sorry, go on.
Can you share some of the things that you find helpful for looking after your mental health?
The biggest thing, I think, for most people, and it's hard, self-aware. You need to be really self-aware, your triggers and the things that trigger you and things like that. And that's the start of your journey, I think. And don't beat yourselves up either. Sometimes these behaviours and these triggers were embedded in you as a child, in your unconscious mind, from your parents' beliefs, your environment you grew up in. Just don't beat yourself up thinking you're broken or thinking there's something you've done wrong, you're a nasty person, you're not a good person. You might be a nice, brilliant person. You just got triggers and things inside you. So first of all, take a step back and think, why am I being triggered? What's causing that sort of thing? And there's so much information out there at the moment at your fingertips with the internet. You can type in any trigger or whatever condition, whatever thought you get, and guarantee you'll come up with pages and pages and pages of potential reasons why. And I said, first of all, being self-aware. I'm far from perfect. If you spoke to my partner now, she'd tell her, I'm far from perfect. I triggered on the weekend, for example, on Saturday. Something just so insignificant and crazy. I had to really take a look at myself in the mirror. I felt ashamed, not ashamed, embarrassed, I suppose. I'm not perfect. I get my triggers the same as everybody else. So there's things I need to work on. And that was from that's from childhood again, to do with emotional vulnerability, I suppose. Emotional that I didn't get when I was growing up, I suppose. It was a strange thing. My partner's really understanding. She's an amazing person, and she understands we're working together on lots of things, and we're really good together, and we're strong together. We challenge each other. We really work together, push each other to be better people, and it's really good. But so I get things. But the things I do is knowing your triggers first of all, but then trying to find out why. But also, I get out in nature, I do a lot of walking, not just because of my challenge. I like being by the seaside. I like going up to the mountains, in the forest, climbing trees, whatever. Just get out in nature. And it hasn't got to be walking for hours and hours and hours. Like a 20-minute walk out in nature is great, or walk somewhere. Because I used to sit at my desk sometimes in work for 12 hours a day. I look at my watch at 4 in the afternoon. I've done 2,000 steps. I haven't left my computer screen because we think, we've got to show our boss we're working hard. We can't have a lunch break. It's bad to have a lunch break. So you sit at my desk sometimes, I'd be tired, my eyes would be stinging, I get a headache, my back would be hurting, my legs would be hurting. And so basically my performance was dropping down. And as the day went on, my performance was going down and down and down. When I think I'm working hard and show my boss I'm in work all day, look how good I am. I've been working for 10 hours a day. Really? No, it's not. So what I do is I take a break. Every hour I go to the gym. I was lucky I had a gym opposite me. So I go training, or I know the gym isn't for everyone, but so I say to people, get out and go for a walk in your lunch break on the block or something. You come back to your desk, you'll feel like a fresh day. You'll be happier, your mind will be reset, your cognitive functions will be better, you make better decisions, your work colleagues will see a better version of you, your bosses will see a better version of you, your customers get a better version of you, plus you feel better in yourself. Just get out from your desk, just go for a walk, set your alarm, Go for like 2 walks if you can, 2 20-minute breaks if you can. Just get and do something like that. I spend time with loved ones as well, which is really important. I obviously do a lot of reading. I listen to a lot of podcasts. And just try and work on myself every day, try and be a little bit better every single day. And don't look at the top of the mountain either. Set small, achievable goals, not looking at the big mountain, because human beings love dopamine. We love a dopamine hit. Everybody loves dopamine. And if you look, I say to people want to lose weight. I want to lose 2 stone. I said, no, you want to lose 2 pounds consistently over a long period of time. So I said, and when you lose that 2 or 3 pounds, celebrate it. So if you're in regular dopamine hits every week or two, you're going to feel good about it. You're going to keep on doing it. Whereas if you're only getting a dopamine hit at the end of the 2 stone, it's going to take 8 months before you get a dopamine hit. Because every day you're looking on the scales, you haven't achieved, I'm failing. And it's the same as anything in life, a business you set up or whatever. Look at small bite-sized chunks and then celebrate them little small wins and do lots of small wins over a long period of time, and eventually they accumulate to a big win. And that's what I say, but people always set their goal too big. But try not set it big, sorry. They look at the top of the mountain rather than looking up at the start and go up and up and up like that. So I say to people, just take it small and don't beat yourself up for a bad day. Just don't let one bad day ruin all the hard work you're doing. So it's like some people, when they diet or whatever they're doing in life, they have a bad day, or everything's falling apart and they start spiraling out of control. They start eating junk in the cupboard. They stop going to the gym. It's just forget it. That's gone. Put that day tomorrow, but it's gone. Forget about it. Try and learn from it. Don't forget about it. Just learn from it. What went wrong? Why you did it? Try and implement things to stop it happening again. Then just start a new day. Everybody gets a new day every day. And just don't beat yourself. I used to beat myself all the time.
Yeah, and it's hard not to, but like you said, if you just try and keep putting one foot in front of the other and focus on the next step in front of you rather than the entire staircase, as they say, and like you were saying, the top of the mountain, taking one step at a time, you will get there, and you can celebrate the steps along the way.
Just compete with yourself. People, if you don't achieve things, I said there was a study done a few years back where children doing an exam, and I think it was I can't remember the exact figure. 60 children, 30 of the children were told their parents and their family were going to see their results. The other 30 were told nobody's going to see their results. The results of the children who were told that nobody's going to see the results did much, much better than the ones who were told the parents were going to see the results. So people put so much pressure on themselves about external validation and what other people think of them. Just compete with yourself in everything in life, in the gym, in your workplace. Just do small things to get better every single day. And don't worry about everybody else. It's hard. I used to be a people pleaser. I still am to a certain extent sometimes. I've stopped doing it now. Don't worry what everybody thinks. If you can get to that stage, you don't care what anybody else thinks, apart from the people close to you who love you. That's all I care about. I know, I didn't win the Traitors, but the people around me who care about me still love me exactly the same. If I won, lost, come last, it don't matter. The people close to me, my family, my son, my loved ones, nothing's going to change. They love me exactly the same. If I had an A in my exam, a D in my exam. If I pass my test, don't pass my test. Are they going to stop loving me? No, they're not. Nobody's not. So just don't worry about that. All you care about is the people close to you.
Yeah, absolutely. How did you find your experience on the Traitors and coming out of the Traitors in terms of the journey that you've been on?
I had a great experience. I was the only player, I think, to do every mission. I did everything. I'd done both sides, Traitor, Faithful. I was in the dungeon. I did the fire pit. I did the helicopter ride. I did every mission. So I had the complete experience. And the only reason I went on the show was to get a platform to talk about mental health and well-being. They approached me initially. In March last year, I had a message on my Instagram page saying, do you fancy applying for the show? I don't watch reality TV. It's quite ironic. I was on one. And go on, I'll try it. I kept getting through the next stage. They said, we love you. We love your story. Do you want to come on it? Oh, I'll give it a try. And I'm normal. I keep my feet on the ground all the time. I don't get overwhelmed by a lot of things. It's a game at the end of the day. I kept telling myself it's a game. So I dealt with it. I didn't lose my temper once. I come across quite well. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew what I went on the show for was to get a platform on mental health. So I couldn't really start shouting at people and talking to people in there, upsetting people, then come out of the show and say, oh yeah, I'm talking mental health and well-being. It's a couple of weeks ago, making Molly cry on telly. So it's contradicting what I was doing in real life. So I obviously kept my feet on the ground. There's a game at the end of the day. And halfway through the show, I learned a lot about myself. Yeah, I'm a competitive person, sport. I want to win. Of course I want to win. Look, I had pictures in my room where all my family, my loved ones around me in the room. I took photos of me. I look around the room and I was thinking, that's what's important to me. This isn't important to me. If all is finished tomorrow, I thought my family was important to me and they're going to love me. regardless of this, whatever happens. So I conducted myself well. I come across well on telly, which did my family proud. I think of myself proud. But also, it meant more to me meeting the people I did in there, having the experience, and that's what was important to me towards the end. And it's not sour grapes. I didn't win. It was way before the final. It was anyway. I thought that I was going to try my best and be myself in there, which I did. And coming out there, the reaction's been amazing. Like, I wouldn't be talking to you probably. I wouldn't be talking on stage everywhere I go. And so it's had the result I wanted. I'm changing people's lives, and it's brilliant. I love it.
Yeah, that's fantastic, and it's great that it has given you that platform that you wanted it to, and that it sounds like it's opened up so many doors for you to be able to reach more and more people and share your story and to help others, which is amazing. Do you have any tips, any other kind of tips and advice for anyone who's going through a tough time or recovery, or for anyone who's supporting them as well?
Somebody to support, some people to support them, just be there for that person. If you know, like in work, you know somebody's going through a tough time, they go through a divorce, a separation, an illness, but what your worst thing is not say anything at all. And I'm not having a go at people, because I know people only try and help and they only care, but sometimes you're worried you don't want to trigger that person. But what I say to people, I'd rather have an awkward conversation with you than come into your bedside in 6 months' time, or even worse, your funeral. I'd rather have an awkward conversation with you now, or an uncomfortable conversation. And it's fine. I'd rather, talk to you, but Sally, for example, comes into work every day, 9 o'clock, has her dinner every 1 o'clock. All of a sudden, if all of a sudden she starts coming to work at 9:05, stops eating her food, don't ignore it, don't walk past it. Just say, hiya, Sally. I'm going to keep it. People overthink it. And I say, just say to them, hiya, Sally, I noticed you haven't come to work late the last couple of days, or you're not on your lunch. Is everything okay? And then and what happens as well, somebody's going through a tough time, and what will normally happen, it ends up in a debate. So somebody say to me, oh, what's wrong? And 99% of the time, when somebody's struggling, the answer you're going to get is, I'm fine. But people get offended by that. I say, don't be offended by that. They're just not ready to talk to you at that time. They might be ready to talk in 6 days, 6 weeks, 6 months. Don't take offense. But what normally happens is, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. No, you're not. Tell me. No, I'm fine. Tell me. I know there's something wrong with you. I want you to tell me. You end up in an argument with this person, a discussion with this person, then, and your guard is going up. You're putting your guard up higher and higher and higher. So when you are ready to talk to someone, you're not going to go to them. So I say to people, all you've got to say to these people, or somebody who's struggling, is everything okay? And when you get the answer, I'm fine, which is 99% of the time, don't be offended. Just say to them, if you ever want to chat to me, pick up the phone, drop me a message, we'll go for a walk, we'll go for some food, and just drop it. Just don't even say it, don't even mention it again, just carry me a day. And then when you're struggling, if you have that message off someone that somebody's going to be there for you when you need them, that's such a powerful thing to do, or to have. Like if somebody said to me, when you're ready to talk to me, just pick up the phone. One day when I'm feeling really low, it might never have happened, but it might have happened. I could have thought, they'll be there. I'll pick up the phone, ring them. I'll go for a walk, I'll go for a chat. So say, if you know somebody's struggling, don't just walk past, don't ignore it. I'm not knocking people. I'm generally not knocking people because it's hard. Because you think you're going to trigger them, you're going to open them up, they're going to cry on you. But I say, just have that conversation with them, and it's fine. And also, if you're struggling, just there's light at the end of the tunnel. It's not always going to be that way. There are people around you. Just keep on believing in yourself. I lost my self-belief massively. I get days now, for example, I do, like I said to you, on the weekend, I got triggered on the weekend, something crazy, stupidly happened. But I'm lucky, I got a very supportive partner who understands, and we're really good for each other, we support each other. But just talk, open up and talk to someone. Just find somebody you trust. And I'm going to be a family member. It could be a work colleague or a friend. It could be a stranger, somebody, a therapist. Just open up and talk, because bottling things up isn't good for you at all. And just keep believing in yourself. And then, just remember your values and your morals. You're a good person, you're good values, and just keep believing in yourself, and things will get better. But talking is a really important thing to do, to talk. I didn't talk for 25 years. It's only been the last couple of 6 months, year probably, I've started talking to people. But it takes a huge weight off my shoulders. And it does help. Yeah, and just, I know it's hard. I'm not going to say, do something, get outside, do something that makes you feel good. It's all very well saying that. But when you're stuck in a hole, you're depressed, you're lying in bed, you're crying, you don't want to go to bed, it's easy for me to sit there now saying, oh, get outside. But it's not when you're struggling. You don't want to get outside. You isolate yourself from everyone. You don't want to see no one. You don't want to speak to no one. But it's hard. It's just really try and be courageous and try and drag yourself out and speak to someone. Get involved in a group. There's so many men's and women's circles out there now who, walking groups, talking groups, coffee groups. Just be a member of a group of people who've like-minded people. Surround yourself with like-minded people as well who've been through things. Like, I've looked at my friends. I still have good friends, don't get me wrong, but their direction, their beliefs are different to what mine are now. So I'm surrounding myself with different people. They're still my friends, don't get me wrong, but I try and surround myself now with people who pick me up, who are going in the right direction as me. They got the same values, the same beliefs, the same, they're changing lives. I'm surrounding myself with people in the well-being space, and it picks me up, it makes me feel good about myself. It helps me as well. So try and surround yourself with people who are more supportive and more open-minded and that as well.
Thank you. That is such powerful and brilliant advice. And thank you so much, Andrew, for sharing your story. I know that it is going to have helped so many people who are listening. There's so many useful kind of tidbits of information and experience.
Good luck editing that. Good luck editing that down. It'll be here for days.
Yeah, luckily that's for my colleague Laura to do. But
good luck.
Yeah, no, it's been absolutely fantastic speaking to you and having you on, and thank you so much.
That's okay. Thanks for having me on. It's been great. Thank you.
Thank you. Trauma Talk is where we have candid conversations about trauma, the impact on our mental health and recovery. It's my sincere hope that these conversations help to break down the stigma, improve understanding around trauma and recovery, and help you to feel less alone. We will always include content warnings in our show notes so that you can see what topics we're covering. But if at any point in time you're finding what we're saying difficult to hear, then by all means feel free to skip ahead or just turn off. If you enjoy the podcast episodes, please consider subscribing and leaving us a review, because your feedback will help us to reach so many more listeners who might also benefit from these conversations. We'd love to hear if there are any particular topics that you'd like us to cover. Please get in touch to let us know. And remember, trauma recovery is a journey, and everyone's journey looks different. We're honoured to be part of yours. I think that's about it for today. See you soon on Trauma Talk, the podcast.